Hi and welcome back to Learn Python by Doing number 25. So now we're going to learn some more general things, and these are related to the structure of your project, okay? So these are the four files that you must have in every project. Well, actually the first one is not a file, it's a folder that contains many files, and it's the virtual environment. So a virtual environment is a way to isolate your project. So for example, if you have a project that uses some dependency, for example, pandas, pandas recently now released the 1.0.0 version. So suppose you want to use pandas, the latest version, but you have installed in your machine some old version, then you may have some conflicts. So in order to avoid those conflicts, then you should use a virtual environment. The second file is the requirements.txt, where you specify all of your dependencies. So every time you do pip install in your machine, maybe you forgot that you installed some package. In fact, it's a challenge for you to know what packages you installed, because maybe it was long time ago and you don't remember now. So in order to remember what you installed in your virtual environment, in this case, you have to put the requirements.txt. Also the readme.md, if you're using Markdown, it's very important for other people to know what are you doing in your project, if there is any configuration, any additional configuration you must do in order for your project to work. So that's very important to specify in your readme. And also the .gitignore. So if you are going to use a version control, and I tell you you should use it, then you should create this file in order to ignore some files like the virtual environment, because the virtual environment contains many files and you don't want to commit that, okay? So now let's create, let's go to the terminal. I'm using Linux here. So let's go to the desktop and let's create a folder called learn Python by doing, I don't know. And let's change directory there and let's open Visual Studio. Okay, so the first thing here that I'm going to do is go and create the requirements.txt, the readme.md, and the gitignore file, gitignore, okay? So here I can use Markdown. I'm going to say learn Python by doing, and I'm going to specify some instructions here. So this backticks is for putting some code, and I'm going to say here, in order to create a virtual environment, we should run the following command. So we're going to say Python 3 -m venv, and this is the name of the script that executes and creates the virtual environment, and the second argument is the name of the virtual environment. So usually you call it the same. Then to activate the virtual environment, run the following command, and you specify here that the command in Linux, at least its source vemp bin activate. So that's how you activate the virtual environment. And to install the dependencies from requirements.txt, then run the following command, pip install -r requirements.txt. Okay, so now let's open a new terminal and let's do that. Let's say Python 3 -m benf benf. Okay, so as you can see now, this created a benf folder, and here we have lots of other folders and files, and that's okay. Okay, now let's use git, or I don't know, git or version control, whatever you want to call this subtitle here. Then to initialize the git repo, then run the following command, and you say here simply git init. So other people that are seeing your code is going to do this thing here, initialized empty git repository, and all these things turned green. Then you have to here specify what things you don't want to track. So for example, you don't want to track this virtual environment now that turned gray. In the requirements, you can put, for example, as I told you, pandas. And remember, in the README, they said first to activate the virtual environment, like this, source when activate, and then run this command here, pip install -r requirements.txt. And now this is installing the latest version of pandas. So it's pandas 1.0.3, but just in this virtual environment, okay? So now this is the basic things that you should always do whenever you want to initialize a project, a Python project. These are the basic steps. So these are recommended practices that you should follow. Okay, so that's all for this video. I hope you like it, and see you in the next one.